thank the Almighty God for giving us good health. It is my pleasure to bring to you this Voice of Hope. This is New Life program coming to you from Adventist World Radio, and I'm your presenter, Tileno Diambo. Thank you for staying put. On this bright and wonderful day, we have prepared for you different kinds of items that are going to make you feel blessed and also keep you at the feet of Jesus Christ. We are going to listen to the lovely, able voice of Sister Susan Apondi as she will be telling us more about job burnout. Pastor Kigundu Ndwiga will also be coming in right after Susan Apondi, as he will also be sharing with us on a sermon entitled The Foolishness of Wealth, Part 1. Here is some sweet melodious tune just for you, my dear listener.
My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. When the stars begin to fall, you'll hear the trumpet sound to wake the nations underground, looking to my God's right hand. When the stars begin to fall, my Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. When the stars begin to fall, you'll hear the sinners mourn to wake the nations underground, looking to my God's right hand. When the stars begin to fall, when the stars begin to fall.
This is the Voice of Hope coming to you from Adventist World Radio. Sometimes in our places of work, one can do a lot of duties till he or she feels exhausted and worn out due to the type of work that he or she undertakes. Susan Apondi is prepared to take us through on the topic job burnout.
Are you always working too tired? Are you always frustrated? You could have a job burnout. My dear listener, welcome to our early edition of our Family Slot. Today I'm going to give you tips on how to recognize job burnout, ways of solving it if you are experiencing it. You are tuned to Adventist World Radio, the Voice of Hope. I am your host, Susan Apondi. My dear listener, do you really know what job burnout is? Well, experts say it is the exhaustion of physical or emotional strength or motivation, usually as a result of prolonged stress or frustration. Are you frustrated or stressed nowadays? Both you and me, a host of co-workers, do. My dear listener, we have so many causes of job burnout. In today's highly competitive business environment, a lot of companies reduce their staff headcount to stay financially ahead. So in the process, laying off some staff members, remnant employees have to carry out a much heavier workload. This leaves you with feeling of hopelessness, feeling powerless, frustrated, and your inability to control your careers. Sometimes you can work hard every day and not receive the recognition you desire from your bosses, while others may work less and have more recognition than the rest. This is a great source of stress. Also, you being in a wrong career can be very stressful because poor choosing in the first place. You can also be in the right career but a wrong job. All these contribute to the burnout blues. Can you identify whether you are suffering from job burnout? You are definitely likely to experience these obvious symptoms like being tired the whole time, crying for no reason, irritability, anxiety attacks, loss of appetite, weight gain due to lack of exercise, or overreacting in reaction to stress. The less obvious are increased alcohol intake, drug use, low productivity, and inability to concentrate. Excessive burnout can lead to a suicide or heart attack, but before it gets that serious, it will affect the way you do your job. That is absenteeism and lateness at work. My dear listener, what can you do to avoid or limit all this? First, you need to work out what is causing you to feel this way. Is it the result of stress or frustration? If it's a difficult boss, you may consider sitting down with him or her to discuss how you can have a more productive working relationship. My dear listener, if you have more work than you can handle, you should learn to prioritize. Do the most important first, work your way down from there. And if you feel you must work extra hard to avoid getting laid off, and this is what is causing you the job burnout, maybe you have to accept the fact that you can't do anything about what might happen. Burnout makes it worse, not any better. Dear listener, as we almost end our program today, get to know that if it's your career that you have discovered it's not for you, can quit if you can afford to do it, or prepare to be out of work while you explore some other options. You need to plan carefully because entering a career takes a complete self-assessment to help you find out careers you should explore. Investigate each career to make sure you have found the right one for you. My dear listener, remember the earlier the stage of burnout you are in. Remember the earlier the stage of burnout you are in, the easier it will be for you to solve it. To that, we come to the end of our program. Till next time, keep tuned to the Adventist World Radio, the voice of hope.
Thank you for staying put to Adventist World Radio, the voice of hope. I am your presenter, Tileno Diambo. Starting from today onwards, those who normally do not have enough sleep will put it into practice what has been said by our sister Susan. Feel free to send in your views, comments, and suggestions concerning this program. Do so by writing to the producer, Adventist World Radio, P.O. Box 42276, code 00100, Nairobi, Kenya. You can also contact us through our email address, which is awrnairobi@eau.adventist.org. today's New Life program. This is Adventist World Radio, the voice of hope. I am your host, Tileno Diambo. Is it true that wealth can make someone become foolish? Well, we'll be finding out about that in just a moment from Pastor Kigundu, as he will be sharing with us on a topic, the foolishness of wealth. Be enlightened.
Dear listener, today I want us to look at the foolishness of wealth, which will be based on Luke 12, verse 13 to 21. I will read. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourselves? This is how it will be with everyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich towards God." Mr. Kiprop, well, not his real name, was one of the new converts to the Adventist Church in one of the major towns in Kenya. Mr. Kiprop came to the church for a whole year until he learned that the Bible expected him to give 10% of his income to God as tithe. Being one of the rich business people in that town, he felt his contribution was too much compared to the rest of the converts. He also felt that it would mean taking a lot of money from his business, which he was working so hard to expand. He also did not see why it was wrong to run his business on the Sabbath to increase his gain so that he could contribute more to the church. He offered to build a church and equip it, but not return a tithe of all in his income, which he felt was such a big sacrifice. When the brethren explained that that was not what the Bible taught, he got frustrated and quietly left the church. Many Christians today face similar decisions, and many have succumbed to the economic pressure and choose to make money their center of worship. According to my experience as a stewardship director, only an average of 20% of church members are faithful in returning tithes and give generous offerings. The statistics actually show that the more wealth one commands, the less faithful he or she becomes. In some instances, Christians who are known to be very faithful when they owned little changed overnight into tight-fisted misers when they accumulated wealth. How can this strange phenomenon be explained? The story recorded in Luke 12, verse 13 to 19, is an attempt by Luke to explain this scenario. This periscope, small story in the Gospel, has 3 sections which I want us to look at. The greed of the young man, the foolishness of riches shown by the rich man's experience, and the solution to the challenges of the rich, that is, how to become rich and still be saved. I want us first of all to look at the greed of the young man. Little is known of this young man. He is introduced abruptly into the section of warnings. He had a problem that he wanted Jesus to solve. For him it was a big issue, the division of inheritance. The Jewish rabbis were experts on legal matters and could be consulted for guidance on laws related to civil regulations. The young man must have regarded Jesus as a Jewish teacher and wished to seek his help. His chief concern was the unfairness of his elder brother in the distribution of the inheritance, a common dispute in many parts of the world. Does this amount to greed? Why didn't Jesus support his fight for justice, and yet God is a God who loves justice? How much time do we spend on fighting in the church, defending our rights? The issue of regional representation in church committees, remuneration of church workers, job distribution among communities, and others may be as pertinent to us as the issue of the division of inheritance was to this young man. Jesus knew that behind these calls of justice is the malady of greed. How can the same Jesus who said, if anyone would sue you and take your coat, let him have your cloak as well, give a different answer? The problem with the young man is hidden behind his clamor for justice. The basic problem is that he thought wealth was the answer to his woes. If only my brother can give me a little more money, my life will be full of enjoyment and fulfillment, he may have said to himself. He saw Jesus as a settler of disputes and not a savior to be followed after forsaking all other things. That malady is hidden in many of us. If only I had a little money, I would be happier, is the cry of many believers. And yet Jesus' concern is to give true happiness that comes by learning to trust in Him. My favorite author says, Mammon is an idol of many. The love of money, the desire for wealth, is the golden chains that bind them to Satan. Reputation and worldly honor are worshipped by another class. The life for selfish ease and freedom from responsibility is the idol of others. But these lavish bonds must be broken. We cannot be half the Lord's and half the world's. We are not God's children unless we are such entirely. Dear listener, I would be very naive to suggest that money is not important in the Christian life. I believe that Jesus did not say that we should not be wealthy. However, there is something about wealth that contradicts the gospel. Money, as Jesus does, demands devotion, undivided attention, and total commitment. That is why money is never enough. And that is why Jesus spent almost a third of his sermons warning Christians against its dangers. Love of money and love of Jesus are in competition. Money, like Jesus, promises security, long and good life, power, peace, joy, independence, and freedom, among others. And it promises to deliver them right away. Unfortunately, the world's humanistic philosophies that govern human practice are controlled by faith in money. And we are living in a consumer-driven society where money is worshipped and sought for with all evangelical zeal and diligence. But where is the foolishness of the money-governed life? The parable of the rich fool is intended to answer this very question. First, the parable is full of personal pronouns, I, me, my, and mine, which contradicts Jesus' teaching on self-denial. Riches lead us to see ourselves as masters of our destiny. Instead of self-denial, the rich fool affirmed himself instead of seeking happiness in giving. He sought it in keeping. He had no room for the needy, the widows, and the orphans. He told himself, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store all my grains and my goods. And I will say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. Luke 12, verse 18 to 19. Secondly, the parable shows that wealth gives a misguided concept of the future. The foolish rich man expected to live happily thereafter. It never occurred to him that he had no thereafter. Wealth has the tendency to bring forth security. True security for the future can only be found in God. He was foolish because he did not see the temporary nature of the material blessings. He was foolish because he laid for himself unreservedly to a passing life. Luke 12 verse 15 is a warning against this kind of assurance and commitment to wealth. The Greek of the text is difficult to translate, but I would render it this way. A man's wealth is no guarantee for the continuance of life. The New Testament has three general characterizations of wealth. Number 1, wealth is seen as a stumbling block to following Jesus. The story of the rich young ruler, found in Luke 18, verse 18 to 30. The parable of the sower, that is the deceitfulness of wealth that choked the implanted word, found in Matthew 13, verse 22. And a picture of those who had left everything to follow him, show that wealth indeed is seen as a stumbling block to following Jesus. Similarly, the disciples who are sent out to preach are instructed to go without supply and rely on the hospitality of their host for their livelihood. That is found in Matthew 18, verse 8 to 10. Number 2, wealth is seen as a competing object of devotion. The warning of the inability to serve Mammon and God at the same time, found in Luke 6, verse 24. The counsel to the disciples not to accumulate treasures on earth, found in Matthew 6, verse 19, because their hearts would eventually follow. And the caution in our text, which warns against the delusions that possessions can provide safety, all show that wealth is seen as an object of devotion. In fact, the epistles bluntly equate greed with idolatry, Ephesians 4 verse 28 and Colossians 3 verse 6, and warn the believers against falling in love with money, found in 1 Timothy 6 verse 6 to 8, and against lust for worldly things, as recorded in James 4 verse 1 to 10. Thirdly, or lastly, wealth is also seen as a symptom of economic injustice. The parable of the rich man and Lazarus, recorded in Luke 16, verse 19 to 26. The parable of the sheep and the goats, recorded in Matthew 25, verse 31 to 46. And the threats against the rich exploiting the poor, as recorded in the book of James 2, point to this problem. On the same point, the gospel is pictured as bringing good news to the poor, and the gospel is depicted as bringing bad news to the rich. Unfortunately, the rich fool and many Christians do not take the above warnings about wealth seriously. They allow themselves to drift into the habit of trusting money more than trusting God, by refusing to share it with others and by being tight-fisted in giving their tithes and offerings. They feel that if they gave a faithful and full tithe and a generous offering in keeping with God's blessings, they may lose their security and so opt to give a little token to blind the eyes of their fellow believers. Although they are regular in church attendance, their God is money. Dear listener, as we end the presentation for today, I want you to reflect on this question. Is money your God?
Today's edition comes to a halt. If you liked or disliked anything about today's show, tell us about it by writing to the producer, Adventist World Radio, P.O. Box 42276, code 00100, Nairobi, Kenya. Our email address is awrnairobi@eau.adventist.org. From the entire production team, we say thank you and be blessed. I have been your host, Tileno Diambo.
My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. When the stars begin to fall, you'll hear the trumpet sound to wake the nations underground, looking to my God's right hand. When the stars begin to my Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. You'll hear the sinners moan to wake the nations underground, looking to my God's right hand. When the stars begin to fall, when the stars begin to Oh, perfect love, all human thought transcending, lowly we kneel in prayer before thy throne, that theirs may be the love that knows no ending, whom thou forevermore dost join in one, whom thou forevermore dost join in one. Grant them the joy which brightens earthly sorrow. Grant them the peace which calms all earthly strife. And to life's day the glorious unknown morrow that dawns upon